So it's 11. Holland has us up. Okay. So we're gonna get started. I need to prepare. Hi, I'm Michelle.
I'm Harun.
You're
Harun?
Harun.
Yes.
Nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you.
So I have my notes here
Okay.
that I'm going to be referring to because I was just telling Rory I tend to talk too much. And this Ignite is new. So there's things in here that I'm supposed to tell you. And so before I wander off on my stories about how we work with buyers, I've been in the business for 40 years. I've been at Keller Williams for 18. And that's all you really need to know about me. So let's talk about Ignite, okay? So we're gonna talk about winning the buyers, because you're moving to the last 7 steps of Ignite. See what I'm supposed to say here. Today's the first day of the 4th and final segment of Ignite. You covered becoming the real estate expert of choice by building your value proposition, and you covered lead gen and lead follow-up. And that's how we're getting to where we are today with the actual buyer consultation and buyer broker agreement. So a lot of times, just to speak to that, a lot of times there are buyers who object to signing a buyer broker agreement. And there are 2 ways to overcome that. The buyer broker agreement is in zip forms. And there's also 2-page in there that's an agency agreement. And sometimes when we work with buyers, they don't want to sign a buyer broker, especially through the pandemic. They were used to calling listing agents directly, thinking they're going to get a better deal, which is the misconception with them. But if they don't want to sign that whole buyer broker agreement, the agency agreement, when you write an offer for them to purchase the property, it's automatically attached. It actually is the first 2 pages of that package before you get to the actual purchase agreement. The agency agreement is there saying that you're the agent representing them on that property. So if it's a one-time showing and they don't want to sign a buyer broker agreement, then we'll have them sign that. But we always try to bring buyers in or go meet with them before we take them out to show property, just to educate them on the process. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how that works. Okay. Slides. Okay, if I forget to change that, just for the way of me. So we're going to talk today about what an A buyer is, getting an appointment with that buyer, preparing them for the consultation, conducting the consultation, getting the signed buyer agreement, and then we're going to talk about that for a minute and see if you have any questions, and then we'll talk about the daily success system on getting A buyers. So, for example, there's 2 agents on my team who are both working with like 3 buyers right now, and some of them don't have them pre-qualified, and they're just out showing properties. And so the easiest way that when we bring a buyer in, our job is not to sell them. Buyers don't want to be sold anymore. And we really realized that years and years ago, that you can't sell, you can probably sell somebody and buy a house with a sense of urgency or the school district or something like that, but really, truly, the house is going to sell itself. They're either going to fall in love when they walk through the door, and it may not have anything that was on their checklist, or it may have half the things that were on their wish list, but when they walk through a door, they know that that's something. And so our job is to educate them before they get there, and then to help facilitate getting the offer accepted. That's the challenge, these things. So when we have a buyer consultation, first the A buyers are the ones that we ask them, when we first start talking to them, we ask them all about their wish list, why they're moving, where they're moving, when they want to move. It's all about them. It's not about pitching who we are and how wonderful we are. It's all about finding out what their needs are and how we can best service them. And then through that conversation, we suggest that we meet in person, either in our office, or we can come to them if they're local, or we can do a Zoom call, just to make sure that we have the checklist right and that we can start shopping for them. And then I ask them what their budget is, and they'll say around 800,000, maybe 9. and I ask them how much their loan approval letter is for. We don't ask them if they have a loan approval letter. We assume that they do. We ask them how much their loan approval letter is for, or if they're paying cash. And they'll say, well, I really was gonna talk to my credit union, but I haven't yet. I just kind of want to shop around first. My next statement to them is, when you start shopping around, you're gonna find a property that you fall in love with. And you're gonna want to write an offer, and today you're gonna be competing with 3 or 4 other offers. And if you can't prove your ability to close, we have to have a loan approval letter, and we have to have a proof of funds for the amount of your down payment and closing costs, or cash if it's all cash. Otherwise, the seller's not even gonna review your offer, because they'll have 2 or 3 others with proof that they can close, and they don't want to wait for you to get a loan approval and hope that you qualify. So we always give them the benefit of the doubt. We don't question them, but when they say they don't have it yet, we give them that reason why, because I don't want to see them brokenhearted that their offer won't even get looked at, because there's 3 or 4 others that are fully qualified, and a lot of people these days have cash, and that's hard to compete with. So once you've done all that and you realize that they are serious, ready, willing, able to buy, and have everything that they need, I like to bring them into the office. We like to sit down with them and show them the Realtor Map, and you can buy that at the Association of Realtors, and talk about our different neighborhoods and where they want to live, and explain the differences in the school systems. And a couple of our cities have overlays, like in Redondo Beach, Torrance, there's an area that even some agents that have been around for a while don't know. The overlay is above Riviera Village, off of Palos Verdes Boulevard, around PCH and Cali Mayor. That area, those homes up there are actually in Torrance. So it's Torrance property taxes and it's Torrance schools, but you have a Redondo Beach mailing address. So your zip code is 90277 for South Redondo. And a lot of people buy there and think that they're in the Redondo School District, and they're not, or that they're in the Redondo tax basis for properties, and they're not. So we like to bring them in and explain all of that to them and see what their work commute is, especially if they're from outside the area. Our job is to educate them and to tell them what's going to happen when we make an offer on a property. And I will usually give them a blank purchase agreement with the agency agreement attached for them to look at, review, and see if they have any questions before they sign all that for us. That's what I tell them when we're preparing for the consultation. Then they come in for the consultation. We talk about neighborhoods, areas, school districts, commutes, all of that. And then we get the signed buyer agreement or the agency agreement, one of those signed, so that when they get to a property, a lot of buyers are anxious these days to buy, and they'll see an open house and not realize that the property just came on the market, and they don't have time to call you, and they'll stop. And there are some agents that will try to represent them and take them away from you. So the buyer broker agreement is much stronger than an agency agreement in that case. And the recap there with your ahas, do you have any questions about any of that we talked about? Okay, so the daily success system, let me tell you what that is.
You said to go over the Realtor Map. Where can I get that?
At the Association of Realtors.
Okay.
Are you a member yet of the
Yeah.
Association of Realtors? Okay, they have them. I keep 2 or 3 in my car because they're paper and they're folded like a map. But then they have one that's laminated too, and we have that in our office up on the wall.
Okay.
But it's for the South Bay.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have clients that want Long Beach, and sometimes we have clients that want the West Side, and I don't have maps for those. And I don't know that PAC West is the association for most of the agents that are Long Beach, Cerritos, that area, and I don't think they have a Realtor Map. Maybe they do. I should find that out. But most of what we do when it comes to residential real estate is South Bay, so we use the South Bay now.
Okay.
The right approach to close for a meeting is the only approach. You just ask for that, just assume that they're going to come in, and you explain why. So this is the service cycle, the buyer service cycle. You get leads and you make appointments with those buyers from the leads, and then you prepare the buyer for the consultation. They come in for the consultation, they sign the buyer broker agreement, and then you start looking for a home for them. And then you offer and negotiate the contract. And then the contract to close is the actual escrow transaction once their offer gets accepted. And then 7 is what is called the post-close system, so we'll review those in a minute when we get to those. One of the things I wanted to tell you about finding a home, and there is an agent in the South Bay, a very prominent agent who's now a builder, mostly named Raju. And when I first met Raju, he was new to the United States and he was farming the neighborhood where I lived. And now he's very, very, very successful, but at the time he was brand new. And he's a engineer, moved here from India and got his real estate license and started that practice. So, but in the farming process, I got to know him and his wife because they were always in the neighborhood, putting pumpkins in my yard and flags on the 4th of July. But we banked at the same bank. And I heard him one day when I happened to be there at the same time he was, and the lady that was always there was telling him that, you know, she was starting to look for a house, she wanted to buy a house in the neighborhood that she wanted in, she really couldn't afford it, and she was waiting for like a fixer-upper to come on the market. And this was 18 years ago. And I heard him say to her, I'll find you a house. We don't just sell what comes on the market. And those words, I came from commercial real estate, so residential was kind of new to me, but hearing those words really expanded my consciousness too about what a really dedicated and professional realtor does. And we look for as many off-market things as we do as what's listed.
Right.
And that gives you a more competitive edge when you can find a buyer. And especially in the South Bay, we have a lot of retired or elderly that don't want the hassle. And even since the pandemic, there's some not retired and elderly, they just don't want a lot of people through their house. And if they can get fair market value for it, they'd rather sell it without listing it, right? So, and you could do that. You could just present the offer. It's called an unsolicited offer because the house is not for sale. The house is for sale, they're soliciting offers, they're looking for a buyer. But you could just, it's the same purchase agreement, it's just referred to as unsolicited offer because the house is not for sale. Sometimes in that case, you'll have to get the buyer to pay your commission because the seller is not for sale and doesn't want to, but usually the seller will gladly pay the commission. Okay, so this next, let me go. I told you I'm not good with this. Get an appointment. Okay. We already talked about getting their motivation, about how they want, where they want to buy, why they want to buy, what they're looking for. Sometimes it's school district, sometimes it's closer to work, sometimes they need a bigger house, sometimes they need a smaller house. Lately, people were looking for a house that's more conducive to everybody being home all the time, working and homeschooling and things. But that always changes, and that's why we have we call it a needs analysis sheet. And it just kind of cues us to stay on track and find out what our client needs and not sell ourselves, right? Find out what they need and then reassure them how we're going to help them get that, so that they always know what the next step is. There's no surprises. So the 7 steps to 7 close to appointment tactics is to show the benefits, the take back close, the negative positive close, give them what they're looking for, the trial close, the assumptive close, and tie downs. And I have explanations of those for you here. So I don't talk too much, so I don't want to get off subject. All right. So to show the benefits, in general, people are more likely to go along with something you suggest if you explain to them where it's going to benefit them. But spending 30 minutes of your time could save hours. If 30 minutes of your time with me can save you hours of time and thousands of dollars in your home search, would that be of a benefit to you? And the tie down to that would be then something like, great, let's get together and meet, let's have coffee. Let me educate you on that market. Let me tell you how this is going to go. Let me explain to you what's going on in the marketplace. And that's why you need to know your numbers, you know, the neighborhoods and what has sold and what is on the market and what is coming soon. And so that you can educate them. The take back close, this technique puts a tempting offer in front of the buyer and then suddenly creates a fear that they might not be able to get it. For example, I've enjoyed talking with you, and to be honest, I don't know whether I can be of help to you or not. However, if we could meet to find how I can help you, I would like to have an opportunity to do that. We just did that the other day. A gentleman called, he hit on our website, he saw something on social media that clicked him into our website, and he filled out the form for more information, and Gabrielle called him, and he's retiring, looking for a home to be near his son, who lives near Esplanade and Burl Street, and right down the beach, near the beach. They live in Oregon. They will sell their home out there as soon as they know where they want to live, because they're sure that their home is going to sell in 15 minutes. And he wants something that's 55 and over in a gated community that's newer, not a fixer-upper, ready to go. Gabrielle is patiently getting all the information on how we can help them and what they want and what their motivation is to move and where they'd like to be near their son, and offering then to have him come in and meet with us. But he was in Arizona looking at a 55 and over community there, because they may move there because he can find a really nice house there for $600 in a 55 and over gated community. And he doesn't know if he can find that here. And Gabrielle and I kind of exchanged that look like, probably not, you know? So she offered to set him up. At that point, she knew not to have him come in for a meeting and to get him a little more pre-qualified as we go through what he sells his house for in Oregon, may change his budget, right? There's not a lot of 55 and over communities in the South Bay that are gated, and the ones that are usually condos, and even those are 800,000 and up. Maybe a one bedroom is less than that, but so figuring out what they're qualified to buy, what their motivator is, and he's not highly motivated yet, because he's got to put his house on the market. So we put him on our nurture list, and she'll stay in touch with him and see when he's going to be in town, that we can meet with him so we can explain more about the neighborhoods. In the meantime, putting him on a drip so he can see what's coming onto the market in a 55 and over community. So that's the take back. The take back is tell them what they're going to get, and then maybe I can't help you. The negative positive close is a way of backing into an appointment. Would you be offended if would you be offended if I asked if we can meet to go over all this in a little more detail? I'm free tomorrow. So that's the negative positive. It's the negative, would you be offended? But I'd like to meet with you in person so we can go over all of this in person. Give them what they're looking for. Quickly pique their interest by giving them what they're looking for. Information on interesting properties in the areas where they want to look. So it's like, let's meet at my office. I can give you specific details about properties and let you know about similar properties that might also be for sale, what time works for you. It's great to book a conference room and have them come in and go through, if they want to live in North Torrance, and pull everything that meets their criteria and do it on the big screen, you know, and show them all the pictures and walk them through it before you actually just get out and show them all the properties too. And then I would also look at the recently expired, like not yesterday or last week, because 1,000 realtors are calling them. It's something that expired 3 or 4 months ago. Jeff Glover in coaching the other day was saying, go back to pre-pandemic expireds, like at the beginning of the shutdown, and look at listings that were expired or canceled, and call and see if they would still be interested in selling, because you have a buyer that's looking for a house just like theirs. One of the things that I will suggest to you, because I love realtors, I love realtors, and out of respect, I will usually call the realtor that had it listed first, especially on the cancel, to find out why it canceled. And if they think their buyer, and I was just telling Allie the other day, we were talking about that. And a realtor on a canceled listing will either tell you, here's the owner's name and phone number, because it's usually not in the list. Owners. So they're like, here's their name and phone number, and they're a pain in the ass, and you call them. I don't want to talk to them. They might sell, you call them. Or they'll thank you for calling them, and they will say, well, there was a death in the family, or there's a divorce, or there's plumbing that had to be, had major repairs. They'll usually tell you why it canceled and what the situation is, and that they will call the owners and get back to you. Yeah, either that or they're not even going to help you at all. It's, I don't know, you know, then you can call the owners. But most especially on expired listings, I will call the agent and say, you know, I know this, you had this house listed a year ago, or you had this house listed 6 months ago, and it's expired, and the criteria is exactly what I have a buyer that's looking for. Do you think you're sellers would still be interested and give them the opportunity to
So
earn it.
in that scenario, are you trying to get that listing or are you trying to actually?
Both.
Bring the,
Yeah, first I want to take care of my buyer and get them the property at all costs, right? And so if it means that the listing agent is gonna get paid to represent the seller, I'm gonna get paid to represent the buyer. And so if you get greedy about that, then it's a bad energy and it's gonna mess everything up. But when they tell you, you know, it's expired or it's canceled, but we don't have a good relationship. So here's their name and phone number, you call them. Or go by there, I don't wanna give out their personal information to you, but go by and knock on the door, they might be interested. Most agents will be very honest with you. There's a few, especially if they're inexperienced and they had a bad experience with that client, they don't even wanna talk about it. They don't know how to talk about it and they don't know how to communicate to you and they don't know, they're not gonna be interested, don't worry about it, right? So always call the agent first, just out of respect and courtesy. Okay. The trial close is to test the water first and find out whether you and the client agree on how the process is gonna go. For example, say to them, can you see how receiving a list of all the homes on the market in your price range will help you in your home search? Well, let's get together and talk about how I can set that up for you and then try to close on the appointment. The assumptive close is that you're assuming that you're gonna meet with them and that they're gonna come in. After you found out all their wants and needs and motivations, then you say, this all sounds great. I'm sure I can help you. I'm available most times this week. What works best for you is when we get together. And the whole purpose of that is to have them come in and meet you in person and then actually get them to sign the agency agreement and buyer broker agreement. So the three things that you should have before you go out is absolutely their pre-qual letter from the lender, or the proof of cash if they're paying cash, the proof of funds, and then an agency agreement or a buyer broker agreement. That third one, you may have a little trouble with because some people don't want to sign it, and probably 70% of the buyers that we work with don't sign it. But we have to have a proof of funds, and we have to have a loan approval letter because their offer won't even get looked at. And I let them know that. I don't want you to find the property that you love. And then the tie downs are always at the end of the sentence like that. So wouldn't that be great? Or let's get this done, or I'm excited to work for you, something that is a closing statement. Okay, next. All right. Buyer objects to the appointment. We kind of already covered that because I talked too much. So ask a lot of questions, empathize with them, identify what the real issue is. If they have objections, then at least you're in a conversation with them and you know that they're thinking about working with you and meeting with you. So figure out when they say, well, I'm not really ready, how can I help you get ready, what you need, right? And sometimes it's just because they need to sell, right? Then it's like, well, my home's not on the market yet. Then you may have a listing too. You may have a buyer that's turned into a listing if they're local, or they may have turned into a referral if they're not local. I talked to a guy the other day that was referred to me by someone at the DuPont registry because our luxury agent division is listed there. And I talked to him for about 30 minutes about this estate that he's looking for, right? And how many bedrooms? He wants 14 bedrooms, 14 to 18 bathrooms. He wants 15 to 20 acres. He wants it gated. He wants it secluded. And so I start talking then after I found out, and when you need to buy, and he said, as soon as the money's in the bank, it's being transferred over from a bond that he has in his country. He's a foreign national. And so we went through this whole process of about 30 minutes of everything he wants, what his motivation is, the proof of funds that he's going to have to buy it because he wants to spend $8 to $10 million. And so when I said, let me start sending you some things to look at so that I know what you like and what you don't like, because it's not going to hurt my feelings. I'm going to send you things that are on the market or coming on the market, and you can say, love this, hate that. It'll help me narrow your search down a little bit more. So what area are you looking at? Like Palos Verdes Peninsula or Malibu? Where are you looking? Or Belinda? And he said, Asheville. And I said, North Carolina? And he said, yeah, do you work there? I said, I sure do. I have an agent there that we work with, right? And I will come and walk with you through the process too, or work together with the agent there. So it's a referral to me, but 30% of a $10 million deal is a nice paycheck. So there's always opportunity, and you just have to keep asking all the right questions because I had this confidence, and he was referred to us by the DuPont registry, and we had a relationship going. And he's like, okay, that's great, right? So ask all the right questions. This is just said, ask the right questions, investigate deeper. And when they say something like, I'm not ready yet, then it's like, tell me more about that. And sometimes it's that their home here is not ready yet. It needs to be painted, it needs a new roof, they have some mold in the garage. And then I always ask them, would you consider just selling it as is condition? Because we have buyers, we have a list of buyers that will buy it in that condition. And you don't even have to put a for sale sign in the yard or have open houses, so we can make an offer. So they don't know what their options are. And that comes back to our job is not to sell, our job is to educate and then present to them what's available. And sometimes we have to dig a little deeper for that. Okay, if a buyer continues to object to a meeting after you address their concerns, continue to cultivate the relationship. That's what we call our nurture list, and provide value just as you would with any other lead. And I'm going to touch on that for a second about the follow-up with that. And I know we've already had the follow-up class, but when I'm at that point, anyone on our team is at that point with a client and they're on the nurture list, I use an Excel sheet. We use Command, and we have all of our leads in Command, and we use Mojo to call people. But I have an Excel sheet that has a category of potential sellers. I have 4 listings coming up in the next 2 or 3 months, and I have those 4 people on there. Their names, their phone numbers, their email addresses, their home address, what the address of the property is that they want to sell, and my notes is why they want to sell and by when. And then there's what I think the price of that house is. Because while I'm talking to them, if it's on the phone, I've already pulled up a quick CMA to get the range. So if it's $1 million, I plug that in. It may be 900,000, it may be $1.1 million by the time I see the house and then it gets bid up. But if I think it's $1 million, I put $1 million in there. And the next column next to that calculates the commission at 2.5%, assuming, right? So that's why I use the Excel sheet, because when I open it every morning, I have 4 buyers. I have 4 listings coming up. I have 3 buyers I'm working with. I have 2 very high profile commercial guys that want to spend somewhere between $3.5 and $8 million on some property they need to buy right away. So I have all that in there. And when I open that Excel sheet in the morning and I look at this column of potential commissions and it's $156,000, I'm going to call those people and see if they need help painting their house or where they are in the process and update my notes, right? It's just an easier way for me, that visual, to manage my contacts with them and to see how I can help them. Be the concierge, bring them everything they need. They don't have the resources. They're either brain surgeons or pilots or dental assistants or teachers. They don't have all the resources that we have. So we always say, can I get you 3 painters? Can I get you 3 bids? Can I have 3 roofers come take a look? Never give them just one. There was an agent in our office who actually got sued for that because she referred one guy to a seller and the seller's hired them. And whatever it was they were doing, the contractor messed it up. And the person that owned the home sued the contractor, but they also sued our agent for malpractice, sending someone over there that wasn't qualified to do the job. So always send them 3 and let them decide who they want to use and tell them to ask for references and vet them out themselves. Okay. All right.
Michelle, did you share that with us,
The Excel sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was talking to Gabriella about that yesterday, and she's gonna update mine and send it out to our team, so you'll get that. But if you guys want that, send me a quick email or a text and remind me that you want that, because I'll forget when I leave here. And then in 2 days you don't have it, and you're gonna go to Simon and Ed and complain that I promised you something that I didn't send you. And then they're gonna come into my office and say, you did it again. So so my cell phone number, if you want that, is 310-944-5600. 5188. I think you have it, Lori, don't you, in the morning?
Oh, yeah.
That all those phone numbers are in there, it's hard to tell whose is whose. We do miracle morning call. We do miracle morning call every morning at 7 o'clock, if you guys ever want to jump on that. It's just a 10-minute phone call to create an affirmation for the day. So that's, my cell phone is 310-944-5188. My email is Michelle Brown. Michelle has one L. MICHELEBROWN @kw.com. Okay, confirm the appointment, we did all that.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Concerning this.
Yeah,
I've got a client who's interested in buying a duplex in Wilmington. And I've been trying to get him to go check it out. It's tenant occupied, so you can only do a drive-by. He said he was gonna go check it out, didn't ever do it. I went above and beyond yesterday. I went and took a video of the outside of the property.
Good for you.
Just to get like him to,
interested.
yeah, exactly. He said he loved it. He said he wants to buy it, you know. He said he's gonna call me after his meeting yesterday, never called. So I'm just wondering, like, cause I've been pushing him, like not pushing him, but just always staying on top of him to just say, hey, like, we need to write an offer, we need to do something here. What do I do at this point, like, without?
I would check in with him every day,
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do.
either by email, text, or phone. Not being spammy, not being salesy, saying, I know you love this. We need to get an offer in. You have 17 days to do an inspection and change your mind. Because when it's tenant occupied, we can't show a property until there's an accepted offer, right? I'm gonna use some commercial terms right here because everything I sold was tenant occupied. And in the day, so it's a term about going hard on the contract. So when you make an offer, it is contingent on seeing the interior. And then it's also contingent on doing the home inspection that terminates the regular contingencies. But the offer itself is contingent on the buyer having the offer accepted and seeing the interior of the units. And then they can decide if they want to move forward and go hard with it, get into the contract with them, and then pay for a real inspection. But they want to see the inside of the units first, right? The other thing is, they probably want to get a look at how the tenants are living. We call them renters in the property management world. Tenants usually occupy commercial space, and renters and residents occupy rental property. So they want to see how they live, because in today's world, in all of the cities in California, they are inheriting the renters, right? And Ally had this come up with one of her clients a couple weeks ago that's interested in rental property. And they thought Redondo Beach doesn't have rent control. And they thought Torrance doesn't have rent control. Well, they don't formally have rent control. Like West Hollywood has rent control, San Pedro has rent control because technically it's LA City. Santa Monica has horrific rent control ordinance. Culver City has rent control. There are cities that have rent control, but as of 2019, the entire state of California has a Tenant Protection Act, which is generous, it's liberal, I think, with what it allows us to do as far as raising rents, because we can go, like in Redondo Beach, you can go up to 8.6%. And typically, when we raise rents, it's somewhere between 3 and 5%, depending on where we are. So that's a generous rental increase that the state's allowing. The Tenant Protection Act, they don't call it a rent control, even though it has that in there. We already had a state law that you can't raise rents more than 10% every 12 months. But now it's depends what city you're in, the Redondo Beach Act is 8.6%. But the Tenant Protection Act has in there what happens when someone buys a property, you can't force those renters to move out, right? So and I don't know it as well as I need to read it as to what's required, because in cities like West Hollywood, Santa Monica, those cities I know, because for 20 years before I came to Keller Williams, that's what I did, is I sold apartment buildings. And so I know that if you buy a 3 or 4 unit building and you want to tear it down, or you want to renovate the units and go up on the rents, but you can't increase the rents more than 3% in those cities unless a unit becomes vacant, and then you can bring it to market rent, right? But a lot of guys buy the properties and they want everybody to move out so they can put in new plumbing and appliances, totally upgrade the units and then double the rent. You gotta pay relocation fees. Those start at about $12,000 to have somebody move out. That's per person that lives in that unit. If they're a senior citizen, have a handicap, have dependent children, which means they're under the age of 18, it goes up. So it could cost as much as $30,000 or $32,000 to move somebody out. And I don't know in state rent control or state tenant protection what that cost is, what it says for that. But I do know that, especially with all the COVID stuff right now, it's been really hard to get people out. So when you make the offer and it's contingent on an inspection, it's contingent on a termite inspection, it's contingent on home inspection, but it's contingent on the buyer seeing the interior of the units to get it fully accepted. So if they like the offer, if the sellers like the offer, and they want to go hard and enter on the contract, then they'll let you come in that appointment and they'll let the renters. A lot of times that they're afraid renters will move. That's old school from like 8 to 10 years ago. Right now, there's no place for them to move to, and if they find out a property is for sale, sometimes they're happy about it, thinking that a new owner might take good care of the property, or they're pretty certain that the rent's not going to skyrocket. The old days, they're worried about that and try to find a nice place. So to answer your question, see, I talk too much. To answer the question is, I would do something every day to say, let's at least get your offer in front of them. Did you run comps for him to see? Okay, what I would do is run your comps. If you need some help with that, let me know. But I would run your comps and see how it's priced, if it's overpriced or underpriced. You have to look at the rents and see Wilmington is not a city that had its own rent control. So Wilmington is only subject to the statewide. So when he buys it, he can go up 8.6% on the rents if they haven't had a rent increase in 12 months, right? If they had a 4% rent increase 6 months ago, then he can raise the rent 4.6%. But you can't do it more than the 8.6. That's your Dr. Beach. I don't know what Wilmington is. I have a calculator through the apartment association that tells you what it is in each city. So just pump, meaning I help you look that up. So I would do that first and then suggest to him that he make an offer. Talk to the agent, see if they have any offers, and anything else that they might be able to tell you, since you can't see the inside because you have a very interested buyer who has seen the outside and wants to send an offer subject to walking through the units.
I spoke with the agent,
Oh, good.
they don't have offers, but
And it's probably overpriced.
yeah, I'd agree with that. I told him we should offer less. He just didn't really give me a response, he said he wants it, so.
Does he want to pay cash?
No, he's finance.
Okay. All right. So I would every day, that's your job. That's your job. It's kind of like if you call a doctor and you need a doctor, you want the doctor to take care of things, to tell you what medicine to take, and call and check on you, see how that's working, and then recommend that you come back in. That's their job. So he's hired you as your investment manager, as his investment manager, you're his realtor. And so your job is not to spam and sell him. Your job is, you said you wanted it, we're not gonna be able to get it if we don't get in front of it. So let me do the paperwork. It's not gonna cost you anything till you see the inside. Let's at least get our stuff in front of him. Does he have a loan approval order? Okay, yeah, just bug and everything. You're fine. Okay. So the 10 service areas of buyer value proposition is the needs analysis, which is what I told you about. We have a cheat sheet that we use. It's by our phones. Since we moved, it's probably not by our phones, and I'm going to find it. But it's like, how many people are in the household? And when do you need to move? The needs analysis is everything that they need, their wish list and their motivation and where they're moving and why they're moving. And Lauren's little dog. And then you need the pre-qualification and pre-approval. You want the neighborhood information. Then you do the home search and you make an offer and you negotiate with the agent. Unfortunately, sometimes that gets complicated because I'm always having to tell agents, this is not between us. We're making an offer, you take it to your seller. This is between the seller and the buyer, right? We're just here to facilitate the transaction. I had an agent yesterday tell me that she was not going to close escrow on Friday because the buyer came through the condo that we have listed and the heat lamp in the ceiling in the bathroom doesn't turn on. And we need to have that fixed. When they made their cash offer to buy it, they had no contingencies. They didn't submit a request for repair. They did a walkthrough, said everything looks great, and they didn't do a request for repair. And so the buyer came the other day to measure for furniture and stuff. And she noticed that that heat lamp didn't work and that the lock on the doorknob to the bathroom doesn't work. And she said, I want those fixed. And I said, and her agent was not with her that day. And I said, well, I will ask sellers to do that. They don't have to, but I will ask them to. And she said, do we still have to wait till the 26th of the month to close? And I said, you do not. You're paying cash, you removed all your contingencies. Their movers are coming tomorrow, they'll be out. You can close Friday if you want to. And she said, this was yesterday on Wednesday, I will get in my car. My daughter and I are on our way to buy furniture. I will call my bank and set up the wire transfer for the remainder of the funds. So escrow has it Thursday, then we can close Friday, right? I said, yes. She said, great, we're gonna do that. And see about that lamp for me, yes. Okay. So she leaves. 15 minutes later, I barely was in my car. I have a call from her agent. Michelle, it's Laura. We have a problem. I said, what's the problem? She said, the heat lamp in the bathroom doesn't work and the lock on the door doesn't work and you promised to have those things fixed. We asked to have those things fixed. And I said, when you guys came, I told you I would ask the sellers. The sellers don't live here. They live in the desert. This is their weekend home. They're coming in this week to pack up all of their stuff. The movers are coming. I will ask them again. She said, we're not closing escrow on Friday. And I said, I beg your pardon? She said, my buyer said that you said that they need to close on Friday. I said, that's not what I said. I said, she asked me if I had to wait till the 26th. I said, no, you don't. They'll be out. Just send your cash to escrow. We can close on Friday. She said, I am not closing escrow until that heat lamp is fixed and that door lock. And I said, this is her, actually. She heard me talking about it. So I said, what? She said, I'm not closing escrow till that heat lamp is fixed and the bathroom door locks. And I said, it will get done. And if the sellers don't do it for any reason, then I will send my handyman up there and do it. It will get done. I'm not closing escrow till you prove to me that it's done. He said, you don't get to make that choice. It's your buyer who wants to close early. So you need to be talking to her and not to me, because you don't get to, she wires the money and escrow has the money, they're gonna close on Friday. And you don't get to make that call. And she said, I don't understand why you're being so uncooperative. And I said, I'm not, I'm just telling you, this is not between you and me. It's between the buyer and himself. And so then the seller sent me a picture this morning. She said, the heat lamp is just unscrewed. It gets too hot in there. So we unscrewed it. We just screwed it back in. It's working. So, and their handyman was up there, and the handyman fixed the lock. So now she's calling. I don't know why. We should call her. That
We
would be
can
fun.
close Friday, that's probably what she's telling you.
Yeah.
You're a very nice agent. I would like to be a buyer's agent with you.
Well, you know what? Being a real estate agent is the hardest job I know, other than maybe brain surgery, but I don't know anything about brain surgery. But it's not easy being a realtor. But most realtors make it harder than it has to be, right? Our job is to facilitate the transaction for the best end result for both parties, right? We're like attorneys. We're not there to fight and battle and create the drama. There's enough drama just in the stress of our clients, and we're there to mellow some of that out and prevent that from happening and having a seamless transaction. So, but thank you. It'll happen. All right, I gotta catch up here. Buyer guide content. Okay, this list, a welcome letter, the timeline of the buying process, the home search process, how to access your KW app on the phone. Do you have all that? You guys have your KW app on your phone and you can send it to your clients. And then the introduction value proposition, That's your pledge of quality, you're guaranteed to them with a brief bio. Reasons to buy the home now, financial worksheet, credit check, all that stuff is in a buyer guide. And the buyer guide is on our South Bay Hub, right? So it's all done for you, you just need to kind of edit it and fill in the blanks. And in case no one has told you yet, in your Ignite classes, when you do that, use if you're new to the business, use your business experience as how you're qualified to help them. And it's just be brief, right? That your 15 years of experience managing a school system, or your 10 years of experience in a car dealership, or use your experience as to how that supports you in being the best real estate agent that there is for them. And don't get carried away with it. But you don't have to, don't stress about that you're being new, and don't stress about you don't have support. Because you have a transaction coordinator here in this office, you have Simon, you have Ed, and then if you need help, you can call us. Our team can help you if you need help with, especially if it's commercial. So you can create your team that's not a team. And there's a lot of single agents, even though Keller Williams promotes teams a lot, there's a lot of single agents here. My friend Sacco, who's an agent in this office, 16 years ago, was in a house in Manhattan Beach, which was a $2 million house at that time, 60 years ago, with his poker buddies. He plays poker there twice a month with his bachelor that has this kick-ass house in Manhattan Beach. And the guy happened to mention to Sacco that he was going to sell. He was moving closer to the sand and he was going to sell the house. And Sacco's like, great, can I do a CMA for you? And can I help you sell that? He goes, actually, I'm kind of talking to Raju. And without the least bit of intimidation about that, because Raju has a team of 13 people. Most of them are his sons and nephews, but he has a big team. And Sacco just said, you don't want to do that. Why would you do that? He said, well, I bought the house from him, right? I bought the house from him 6 or 7 years ago. And he said, he has a big team now. And if you hire Raju, you don't get Raju. You get him to sign the contract and you get him to manage all those other people. You don't get Raju over here. You're gonna have people that are new and they're on his team, and you're not gonna be working directly with Raju. When you get me, I will be here. I live 1 block away and I'll be here 24/7 if you need me. And show it, to do open houses, and so the guy listed with him. Because he showed him the value of his experience versus a team that's diluted, in his opinion, the effectiveness of the leader of that team. So don't be intimidated by that at all. There's strengths in that, and there's a lot of people that don't want to work with you. They do business with people they know, like, and trust, and that would be you. Okay, so all of that stuff's available for you. I gotta catch up. What time is it?
11:49.
It's what, it's about an hour?
11:50.
Where am I? The buyer presentation is going to touch on all of these topics in a very personal way. Remember to keep your value proposition focused on what you bring to the buyer, not just how great you are. List the benefits that you offer the buyer, not how great you are. List the compelling reasons that they should work with you, not how great you are, but what you can do to support them to get what they want. These are going to be the basis of your customized buyer guide, which you can create in Command. So that's already been done for you, and all you have to do is plug in the right information about yourself. Okay, so looking at this list, what do you think it does for your buyer? What does it give them? What does it provide in value? It tells them what to expect. It answers some questions they may have. It lays out the step-by-step buying process and helps them to avoid mistakes. It makes mistakes. It sets expectations for the process and their relationship with you and what they can expect of you. It educates the buyer. Again, we're back to educating them, which shows your credibility and gives you a guide to follow during your presentation to them. Does this mean you have to create a completely custom guide for everyone? No, lots of information will be the same. All of them want a local market analysis with price ranges and trends, for example, and that will change with every client, but your buyer guides pretty much stay the same. Guys have any questions about that? Okay, Now we know what some options are for what we need in our buyer's guide. We're gonna jump in and start creating one in Command. It has you covered. And they go into the designs and how to print it and buyer presentation. You'll find the design templates. I'm not gonna go into Command and do that. I'm gonna save you guys that pain. Mostly because I need Gabriella to do that, because I don't go into Command. But that's what we're supposed to do at this point. We're not gonna review every page or edit them. And plenty of help and plenty of articles are available for you at answers.kw.com. I didn't even know that existed. I love the new Ignite. I'm learning stuff. Answers.kw.com. Do you guys know about that? Did anybody tell you already? It will help you customize your presentation and enrich the activity for your week. I don't know what that means. All right. Each section of the buyer presentation helps you connect with your buyer and build confidence. You can add to or delete or reorder, just as we've done. What resources do you need to prepare your buyer presentation? You just need your lead sheet and the market analysis and your logo and the address and your photo. Remember to go back and change. That's Laura again, just so you know.
You should answer.
Huh?
You should answer.
I should answer it on speaker.
Yeah. Dealing with cases of agents or?
Really bad. Please call me, it's urgent.
Oh, wow. Cash fire, saying call me surgeon. Talk about fires.
Hello.
Hey Laura, it's Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle, I'm having problem with my client, okay? So she didn't work one day, she came to do the final walkthrough because seller's supposed to move her stuff already way back, according to the first text message, that they didn't do it. And you text me only after she already drove all the way there, that the stuff are inside. So now, seller, you asked me to close it Friday, right? Didn't you?
I said that when your buyer was there yesterday, she asked me if she had to wait till the 26th to close. And I said, no, you don't. You can find the rest of the money and close anytime by Friday of this week because they are in the process of moving out. They're on their way here.
No, Michelle, you send me text message and you talk to me if we can close it this Friday.
I did say that. I said, you can't, you can. I
And
didn't
I
say.
told them, and she must have probably verified since what I said, if she can close early, not early. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
Her words to me were, do I have to wait?
Forget what she said. Let's talk what we spoke, okay? You told me that they're gonna remove the stuff yesterday. So she didn't go to work today, so we could drive by and she could see whatever seller took. So we could, do the measurement. But now you're texting me that yesterday they didn't take it out. Today they are not taking out. They're gonna take out the stuff tomorrow.
That's what she told me.
But she can't do that. If money has been wired yesterday, we're going for recording. If the property recorded 9 a.m., after 9 a.m., nobody, the seller cannot enter the property.
I think that the purchase agreement says that they have until 5 o'clock the day that escrow closes to be out. But
No, 5
then
days prior, buyers have to do final walkthrough.
you can do a final walkthrough.
No, but her stuff is still there. We cannot know what's going, what's taking. After she remove her stuff, if the hatchets are, what's the situation? The property should be empty at the seller's stuff.
There's almost never a buyer walkthrough, a final walkthrough when the property's vacant. The seller has until the day escrow closes to vacate. And the buyer has until 5 days before escrow closes to do their final walkthrough. They're almost never vacant 5 days before escrow closes.
I don't know how you work there. This is final walkthrough. It's for the one purpose that the seller moved out or her belongings are moved out.
No.
And the property in the same condition as you've seen in the beginning when you wrote the offer, and you write down the form. So right now we're gonna She came all the way yesterday. Why would we come to do final book? Her belongings are still there. Why are we coming? Can you tell me?
I don't know,
What's
Laura.
what's the purpose of this final book?
I didn't know that you were coming today, Dora. And as I said, I almost never have a vacant house when the buyers do their final walkthrough, because the sellers have, they don't have to move out until they have the money and escrow closes. They have until the day escrow closes to move out. Yes, she told me they were gonna move out yesterday, but then they started packing and they had their handyman come up to take care of those repairs. And they didn't get finished with their packing, and she sent me a text that said the movers are coming tomorrow. So that's all I know.
We're changing one bulb and then doing the lock. What's got that to do with that parking?
What?
Changing the light bulb and changing the door lock. What's that? That's got to do with that.
They had the handyman there. They had a handyman there to help them take those nightstand shelves off and to replace the bulb, which didn't have to be done, it only needed to be screwed in. And to make the bathroom door lock. That handyman there to do a lot of those other touch-up things. She is a meticulous housekeeper and wants the property in the best condition it can be in. So she had her handyman there yesterday working with them on those things and people packing. And the movers are coming in the morning and the cleaners will be there. That's her timeline, and
So
she,
sometimes, right now, I don't believe of anything right now, but let me ask you a question. It is a very important question, and I'm gonna send you an email. If the property is recorded 10 a.m., 9 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever. Tomorrow. Movers come 11, 12 p.m. They move and somebody falls down, something happens. Whose liability is that?
if someone falls down,
Yeah, they're gonna move it, somebody falls down, something happens, broke the leg or something happens. Property is reported on my client, and whose responsibility it will be?
I've never had that happen before, so.
When we
they're
had
both-
it, the cleaning lady fell from the stairs cleaning the window. I had so many bad things, experiences.
No, I've never had that happen before, but I always tell my sellers not to cancel their homeowner's insurance until the end of the day the escrow closes, not to remove their homeowner's insurance. So they would both have insurance on the property. My sellers would anyway. I always tell them not to cancel their homeowner's
When
insurance.
you said they both will have to do with buyers and sellers,
They both have homeowner's insurance.
yeah, but why would buyer's insurance will?
I don't know, Laura, this is not relevant right now. The
It's
seller,
important, 5 times you said they are moving out, they are still didn't move out.
you're right. I told you what, I told you
I
what.
know it, right, and the buyers is getting upset at me. Can you tell me why? Why they are not moving today, why tomorrow?
I don't know why she didn't tell me. I sent you what she told me.
So what should I tell to my client?
That they can move in by noon tomorrow. That's what we know, that's what we know at this point. That's what my sellers told me.
Yeah, I kind of don't believe it, but whatever you said, I mean, it's already.
I don't lie to you. I only communicate.
No, I know it's not you, I know it's not you, but you should force them to tell them that this is how it needs to be done.
They know, they are both appraisers. They know well what should be done. They buy properties,
Well, if they are places, doesn't mean they don't respect the.
they buy 6 houses a year. They buy vacation homes, they sell vacation homes, they buy Airbnbs, they sell Airbnbs. They're experienced buyers and sellers. They know what needs to be done.
Well, I'm gonna send an email.
Okay.
Anyways,
Okay,
and 12 o'clock, then they can move in. I'm gonna come and pick up the keys.
Okay.
She's working.
that's fine.
And this was not a nice finishing, I mean, I have to come, now I'm gonna call her and say, you know what, you go back to work,
Okay,
because they didn't move out yesterday, and she's gonna be extremely not happy. Anyways, I'm so sorry, my attitude is not towards you, it's towards to the seller that they are not, and to you too, if they were not ready to move, we could have closed it Monday or Tuesday.
They moved up their move out date. They had scheduled the movers for next week. They moved up the move out date so that they could accommodate the buyers
For what?
because they found out they could get out earlier. So they were moving this week instead of next week. They're
You're
doing,
not accommodating buyers, buyers are accommodating seller. You ask them if it would close.
okay. I need to go. Send me the email and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
What's her last name, Lauren?
Huh? Her first name is Laura.
And what's her last name?
I'm not gonna tell you. But she's not from here. She's from Pasadena. Her buyers are moving.
I thought you were gonna say Russia.
Huh?
I thought you were gonna say Russia.
No, they're up in the Pasadena, Los Feliz area and they're buying us for a weekend house for their family. Okay, sorry about that distraction. Did you learn something?
Oh, it's interesting.
That would keep your cool.
You're very
That'd
cool.
be hard for me to do.
Like,
I just feel like,
Learn it
yeah,
fast.
'cause I just feel like, look, they have until this day to move out. That's end of story. Why are you pestering me?
Yeah.
I get frustrated
Well,
quickly.
because you know what, that's why I finally just cut her off, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's that this is her, and there are agents like that, and that think they're strong negotiators, they think that they know better, and they try to push for their buyer. I've met with her buyer, right, and I will tell you this. The last 3 properties that we listed in the last 3 of the properties that we've listed in the last 6 months, the people that listed the property with us had a buyer's agent when they bought the property. It was our listing. And they got to meet us through the transaction because sometimes the buyer's agents can't come, like yesterday when she wanted to measure the house. Her agent couldn't come. She called me and asked me to meet the buyer there. So I've met the buyer there 2 or 3 times without her agent present, as well as with her agent present. And through that, the buyers decided 2 or 3 years later, when they got ready to sell, they call us. But that's also because they're then free agents, so I'm a sports fan. They're then free agents, right? And we put them on our nurture list. And we send them postcards at Christmas and we send them market updates and we just start building it up to where then when they do get ready to sell, they call us and not their buyer's agent network. So this is gonna be one of those cases, I know.
It
all right.
sounds like she's making the whole transaction
Yeah,
more stressful.
okay. Your needs come first. So the first page on your presentation starts like this, sets the tone for the relationship and comes back to what we said when we started this class today. It's all about your client and what they need and what they want, right? So it sets the tone for your appointment and your relationship and puts your client first. Any questions about that? Okay. Go back to the buyer guide. Preference profile. That section is about uncovering their expectations and their preferences for communication and the anticipated timeline for the buyer. Remember, it's important to set and revisit the expectations. You just witnessed that. Someone had a different expectation of how this was gonna go. So I will say this, when I took Ignite 18 years ago, it was called 443. Because it was, if you did everything that's in Ignite the way that they tell you to do it, 443 meant 4 listings and 4 sales in 3 months. How to get 8 transactions in 3 months. That was called 443. And even back then, it was about anticipating all the needs for your client, how to get into a relationship with them. It didn't have this part about how to communicate with them. And about 4 years later, I was teaching 443, and there was an agent in the room that said, I have this client, brought up communicating, and I have this client that will only text me. They don't answer my calls, they don't return my calls, they don't return my email, they only text me. Text was new. And we didn't know then that what we know now, that everybody texts, right? And prefers to text. So setting up the expectation of how you communicate. We just had a client who sold her home with us to move to Arizona. And she doesn't really know how to text very well, but she doesn't have an email. She doesn't have an email address. She doesn't have a computer. So everything had to be wet signed, everything had to be signed in person. We had to go over there with all of the contracts and stuff. We didn't do DocuSign. She does not have a computer. So there are people like that, and you probably need to know that when you get ready to have all the documents signed, that you're gonna have to make an appointment and go there. And that's why you ask the questions about how do you want us to communicate with you. She's like, I don't have email. I said, let me get you an email address. We'll set one up for you so we can do things electronically. And she said, I don't have a computer. Like, oh, honey, I said, well, you can do it from your phone. I can show you how you can do it from your phone. Just put the phone is like 12 years old. She goes, no, that won't work for me. I'm not savvy with technology. So set up that expectation of how they want to get communicated with. Ask how you should keep track of all the information across multiple appointments, and that they should be taking notes during your presentation to capture the information and see if they have any question. And that also shows that the buyer has their thoughts and their needs that are important to you, and they're making notes, they're writing them down. So we had Jennifer, one of our team partners, and I had an appointment with a young lady about 4 years ago. She called and wanted us to show her our property, and she had seen some of our stuff out there somewhere. And Jennifer made an appointment with her to come in so we could do the buyer presentation. And she didn't want to sign the agency agreement or a buyer broker agreement with us. She didn't understand why we were asking her to. And so we explained to her why we were asking her to. And it helps us not waste time, because we're going to be out there shopping and previewing properties and spending a lot of time with you. And we don't want another agent telling you you're going to get a better deal by signing with them. And it doesn't waste our time because we know that you're our client. And she just couldn't grasp it. And she's been making a lot of, hello. She'd been making a lot of offers, and she'd been going to see properties, and she hadn't been able to buy anything. And so she said, I want to think about this. Turning back to Jim. She's like, I want to think about this. And we were like, okay. And so as she was leaving, Jennifer handed her the agency agreement and the buyer broker agreement and said, read through it. See if you have any other questions. You know, we'd love to work with you, but it's our contract that we're going to work together, right? So she left. And in about a week, she called us back and wanted to come in. And we sat down with her again, and she said she'd been going to open houses, and agents were not working with her, and she thought it was maybe discrimination, but she realized what we had said, that she was hiring us to be her agents and to find her home that she wanted. And so she signed the buyer broker agreement, and it took us 2 months to find her the right house. This was back when you could buy houses. There were a bunch of multiple offers, but she finally found her home and entered into a contract and bought that home. And now 4 years later, she wants to move. She was in Long Beach. She needs to move closer to her job at her son's private school in Venice. And so we found her that home, and we sold the home for her, and now we're going to be selling the other home in Long Beach for her. So it's 4 transactions that it took an hour to 90 minutes of our time, twice, to get. And then she said to us the other day, you guys are the best ever. She said, I wouldn't ever work with anybody else. Because I said, when are you going to list Long Beach with us? She said, when I get it cleaned up and get moved and get out, I wouldn't work with anybody else. Don't worry about that. So she said, I trust you, and it takes a lot for me to trust somebody. So anyway, I talked too much. The wish list. The buyer home guide wish list is a section that guides you on how to ask your buyers the questions about their ideal home, and how to customize more questions to dig a little deeper when you're talking to them. It's a great practice to keep various versions as you create them of the wish list, because sometimes they may not know what they want, and sometimes they'll tell you everything that they want, and then you'll walk into a house that has none of that, and they're like, this is my home. So I had a client recently. I knew exactly what he was looking for. When he described to me his dream house, I knew exactly what he was looking for. And he wouldn't look at anything that didn't have a pool. And so we spent every weekend for about 2 months in Malibu, Carlsbad, Dana Point, PV. He really wanted to live in Palos Verdes, but he's a doctor and he has a practice, gastroenterology practice in Antelope Valley. And he has an apartment there, but it's 3 days a week that he's off. He wanted a stay, a retreat. He really wanted PV, but he was fascinated with Malibu. He's not from here. He's been in Houston getting all of his internships and stuff done. So we kept looking at homes, and sometimes he'd walk in and he postures himself, always a hand behind his back, and he walks in and he turns around, looks around, hi. Turns around, looks around, and then walks back out the front door. Maybe 50% of the houses he would go on through and look at the bedrooms and stuff, and walk outside and look at the pool. And he wanted a garden area where he could take walks and meditate. And we just couldn't. I said, "There's a house I want to show you. I know the perfect home for you, and I really want you to see it." He goes, "Well, okay, you keep saying," I said, "I know exactly what you want." And he said, "How do you know?" I said, "Because we've been in 5 cities, in 2 counties, looking at 30 homes. I got this. I know exactly what you're looking for. I have the perfect house for you." And he said, "Well, tell me more about it." I said, "No, you have to see it." And so I called Ed Kaminsky. He agreed that day. So I called Ed Kaminsky that had the home listed. And I said, "Do you have a lockbox on that house? So the seller's still in there, that they move out?" And he said, "You know, my daughter Tina's over there today, it's open." And I said, "Perfect." So he followed me around to that side of the hill, and he walked into the house, the entrance foyer, and not discriminating or stereotyping, he told me, "I'm from Iran." His mother's name is Iran. He said, "I'm from Iran, and we like high ceilings, and lots of marble and tile." And I said, "I know, I'm telling you." So when we walked into this house, the foyer, the entrance foyer was a third the size of this room. And there were steps down into a major wide hallway with steps down into the living room. The back wall was all like 4 sets of French doors that look out on the harbor ocean view. And then there was the kitchen and the master bedroom on that level. And then downstairs were 4 other bedrooms. He walked in, not listening to a word I said, because I was about to tell him what he was going to see. He stood in that foyer, hands behind his back. He just stood there. And I was like, "Oh, he's sleeping." That's how he always does. He looked at me and he said, "This is my house. This is my house." I said, "Yeah." And you almost lost it. You should have listened to me a week ago, because he goes, "This is my house. Why didn't you show me this house?" I said, "It doesn't have a pool. You insisted that you didn't want to see any houses that didn't have a pool." He said, "Do you know a pool guy?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, we'll put a pool in. This is my house." So sometimes you know better than they do, and you just have to entice them to, like, just trust me on this one. You gotta see it, right?
Michelle. So with people with money, obviously they have so many options, like they want the perfect house, like, do you have to go through all those steps of like showing them a billion places for them to finally be like, "Okay, this is the right one"? Because I'm going through the same thing right now. My other Malibu guy is like all over the place.
Yeah, you do. You actually do. And I sat in a lot of classes where the agent teaching the class said, if you're working with somebody that is not going to buy in the next 6 to 8 weeks, then, don't work with them. And I'm like, they're going to buy eventually. It's about the relationship, and if they're not ready, they're not ready. And I don't get to make that choice, just like with Laura. But I don't get to make that choice, but I am here to help them. And I got to figure out why they're not ready, and I got to figure out what's not working. So have a fierce conversation with me.
Did you go through all these questions with him?
Yeah, that's why I'm using my cheat sheet, because this part of Ignite is new, and I don't have this memorized, but this is yeah, everything that we do is to, tell me how I can best help you. I don't want to waste your time. And so the first conversation that you have with him is, I kind of feel like I'm wasting your time. Don't make it about him, right? What's about him is all of his wants and needs and his motivation. So don't make it about him, make it about you. I feel like I'm wasting your time, right? And let's get real specific of everything you've seen, what's your favorite and why? So then, when you're cruising through the coming soon and MLS and it expires, and you see that house, you're gonna know. And when I walked in that house, when Ed had his first open house, and I knew that was the doctor's house. That was everything he told me he was looking for, except the pool. And he refused to look at any houses that didn't have a pool, because he's a single guy, and he wants to invite all his friends over for a party. He's like, well, we'll put a pool in. I'm like, that's gonna take a year. We're in a pandemic. There's a waiting list. He goes, that's okay, this is my house. We wrote the offer that day at list with no contingencies, right? It's $3.5 million cash buyer. So, yeah. So in the middle of the transaction, decided to get a loan for half down, and just make those adjustments to the contract. So that's that. Other questions? Oh, right here. This is how you capture a precise picture of what your client is looking for in your home. And that needs analysis is a compact questionnaire that'll keep you on track with getting that information.
Oh, it's that. So, confession, I've never done like a buyer interview or whatever it's called.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah.
And the first part, before you dive into the first part of this, is sometimes they don't want to come in. But they don't want to do that. And you can do it on Zoom. The pandemic has created some new methods for us that make our lives a little easier. You can do it in a Zoom meeting, or you can go meet them for coffee, or they can come into the office and you can, look at the map and say, this is where the views are. Not everything in Malibu has a view. Some are in the canyon. Do you want ocean view or do you want a canyon view? Sometimes you can get both, but it's rare. And just you're the expert. And so you tell them that what they're looking for doesn't exist. And, give me some more information so I can find it, because it's out there somewhere. But let's hone in on what you love and what you hate. It's not gonna hurt my feelings, because I didn't build any of these houses, right? They're not mine. So tell me what you're loving about what we're seeing, so that I'm not wasting your time out there running around. But you need proof of funds or loan approval letter, because they are wasting your time. Don't tell them that. Just tell them they're gonna find their dream house and the offer's not gonna get accepted, because they have to have that in their offer. The agent's not even gonna present it. Okay, you gotta have that. Questions?
So you wouldn't even show them deposits until they've done a buyer consultation. What if they're like, I just wanna see what's out there?
Well, then I set them up on the MLS strip, do the search in the MLS and then capture them. You know how to do that? And, okay, so when you do the search in the MLS, there's a thing on the bottom where you can save your search. You set them up as a contact in the MLS, save your search, and then send them updates. And so every week, and if you don't know how to do that and you're a member of the Association of Realtors, look for one of the classes that Miguel is teaching over there, because he's a whiz. He's been teaching the MLS courses. He works for the MLS. He doesn't work for the Association of Realtors. And he's been teaching those classes for 20 years. And so he can show you how to do that just like that. And those are free to members of the association. So, yeah.
There's this amazing tool. I think it's very useful, especially for beginners, beginner agents. It's called Real Scout. You can set up a monthly or weekly update for the area of new listings, and it shows you if they opened it, how many times they opened, the email, which homes they looked at.
Yeah.
So it's a great
Real Scout.
Real Scout, yes.
Yeah, Real Scout. And if you do it in the MLS, they'll show you that too. It'll send
It
you.
doesn't show if they opened it, when they looked at it, how many
Really?
times.
The new one, the one home? Really? Maybe I didn't look at it
They
that
have to
closely.
register for all that, otherwise,
Oh, Real Scout, they don't.
on Real Scout now.
Oh,
If you
awesome.
have their email, it just.
We need to check that out.
Yeah, well, it's 5 stars.
Yeah, did you make a note?
A lot of companies are
Thank
adopting
you.
it.
Thank you. We'll check it out. Okay, so the home buying, how the home buying works, the guide. A buyer knows what to expect and they're a confident buyer and they're easier to work with than an anxious buyer. A buyer who knows what to expect is an educated buyer. And they're not going to do things accidentally that will endanger their home ownership journey. So doing things accidentally that endanger their home ownership journey is not a conscious decision that they make. And that's part of the education that we have to present to them, right? And if they already have their loan approval letter and they're gonna send that to you, those expire in 90 days. So that's another reason that you need to educate them, because sometimes they don't know that. And they're like, yeah, I have a loan approval letter, we got it about 6 or 7 months ago, I'm like, I need a new one. It needs to be current. Just call your lender and tell them they'll update it if nothing's changed. You didn't buy a yacht or a car or a vacation home, because that's gonna change how you qualify, right? And they don't know that. So the accidental decisions that they make that jeopardize or endanger their home ownership journey is something that they don't know they shouldn't be doing. So it's up to us to educate them and let them know not to buy anything. Okay,
Or the interest rates also going up too, so that would affect their home buying.
it does. Well, we know that. We had an escrow fallout because interest rates went up during escrow and the buyer didn't qualify anymore for that property. So he was gonna come in with the cash to make up the difference, but then there were other multiple offers. And so it all ended up working out better in the long run because he got the right home, the right place. But I haven't ever, in 40 years of my career, ever had that happen. I've had escrows cancel and fall out for other reasons, inspections or illness or something like that, but I've never had it happen because all of a sudden in the middle of escrow, we had a seller die. I was representing a buyer on a dental clinic and the seller died. And there was no trust. And so,
Okay,
yeah, had to go through probate and then, yeah, it took 2 years to close that escrow.
exceeded.
Yeah. And the point is, my buyer could have backed out. At the time that they were buying, there weren't a lot of dental clinics for sale that included the practice. Because that's two different things. And the dental practice is a business opportunity. In this case, the dentist owned the real estate too. So it was, they were getting the practice and the real estate and they died. So then I had to go through probate. Yeah. Was there a question? Yeah.
At Keller Williams, do we need to have a separate license to sell commercial?
You do not yet. It is in Keller Williams. Let me back up. The state of California issues you your license. In the state of California, if you have a real estate license, you can sell anything. Yeah, you can sell anything.
It's not 1 to 4 residential units?
You can sell anything. You can sell an office building, you can sell farmland, you can sell anything that's in the state of California. There is a code of ethics that is sent to every state from NAR, from the National Association of Realtors, that says that there's, and I don't remember which code, there's 13 codes in the code of ethics. And one of them says that you should not practice what you don't know. So if it's your first time to do a commercial deal, find a commercial agent to work with, and we're here for you. We'll do that. If it's your first time to do property management, you need to work with a property manager on the deal. Keller Williams does not allow you to do property management under the Keller Williams broker. We have a property management company. I've had a property management company for 30 years, but I have a separate broker and my own errors and omissions insurance, and Keller Williams knows it and they refer me business. But they don't let agents who don't have their own company. There are agents in our company who are managing properties, and our broker is at risk because the way the errors and omissions insurance works in Keller Williams is that the cost of that is divided by 300 agents. We all pay our share of it, and it does not include property management because there's only 4 or 5 of us that do property management. I would love for 296 agents to be paying part of my share of errors and omissions insurance, but Keller Williams doesn't allow it, and they don't want our broker at risk. So but back to your question is, if you go to RE/MAX, they will force you to make a decision. You can sell residential or you can sell commercial, but you can't do both. Keller Williams doesn't limit you like that. And, you know, Gary Keller said that himself at family reunion one time, because I was thinking about growing the team and expanding and doing, because I came from commercial to do commercial and then moved over into residential and we do both, right? But somebody asked Gary Keller that, how do you decide whether you do residential or commercial? And he said, follow your passion. You know, the first thing is you gotta make money and help your client. That's what we do. And then you're either gonna love residential or you're gonna love commercial, or you're gonna love land. And then you build your team. And he's like, at this point, I had 175,000 agents. He said, I have 175,000 agents on my team. And some of them specialize in luxury homes, and some of them specialize in mobile homes, and some of them specialize in land, but depending on what state you're licensed in, you don't have to have a separate license to sell. So on a state level, there are some realtors, mostly commercial guys, who are lobbying to have a separate license to sell commercial real estate. They want us to have a separate license to sell commercial real estate. We keep defeating it. Those of us who believe in free enterprise keep defeating that. They haven't won yet. They keep coming back. But it's just the commercial guys trying to keep the residential agents out of business. The good news is not very many commercial real estate agents are realtors. There's they have a real estate license in good standing with the Department of Real Estate, but they don't belong to an association of realtors to have a realtor designation because they don't use our MLS and they don't like the NAR code of ethics. So they are licensed realtors, they do work, real estate agents, they do work for a broker, they're in good standing with the state, but they don't have the realtor designation, they don't belong, and they don't like residential agents. So, because they think that we don't know what we're doing. More and more of them, there's one company in NAI, you see a lot of their signs on Hawthorne Boulevard. Sherry Messerlane is one of their top agents, and they are realtors. Their broker belongs to the Association of Realtors because they do want the code of ethics and adhere to that, and they do sometimes do some residential, but not much. So it's changing, that world is changing. But right now in the state of California, you sell anything you want. I don't recommend biz ops. There's no real estate attached to a business opportunity. You're just selling the business, and there's just no money. It's just it's a lot of work, and there are agents who specialize in that. I don't like to do those. Okay, so part of the buyer presentation that is optional is that you recommend that your client reach out to Keller Mortgage if they don't already have a loan approval, because the Keller Mortgages has a 0+ loan, and that's available only to KW agents. With it, it costs them a lot less to get a loan through KW than through their probably current lender. Next. I gotta talk faster. So that's the home loans made simple. That's the Keller Mortgage buyer guide, value proposition. This says, remember way back in the first section, the real estate agent of choice, you created your value proposition, right? Did you guys all do that? Were you in that class to create your value proposition? So there are guidelines and command on how you can write that. My value proposition is that I'm old and I've been in the business for 42 years in 3 states, and I did commercial and residential, and that we're here to help you, protect you, and help you get what you want. That's my value proposition, but everybody's is different. As a new agent, you might choose to provide data for your team, about your team, market center, and Keller Williams Realty, and present your best value story. The beauty of being with KW is all that stuff's already written for us, and it's in that marketing piece that's on the, is that called South Bay Hub? I think it's South Bay Hub, or South Bay. It's the hub. Yeah, there's a lot of resources, information there, and there's a lot in command too. Ahas or questions? No? All right, so here's your buyer consultation. Prior to meeting with your buyer, have a high quality colored copy of your buyer presentation ready for them. If you're meeting on Zoom, have it emailed or delivered to their home the day before. If you're not sure, they have the PDF version to review during the consultation. It is most certainly best to be in person at your office or another quiet public location. You can't be quiet and public. How does that work? Quiet public location, that would be a church maybe. If you can't, then you Zoom or you FaceTime them. If necessary, have masks and hand sanitizers. I guess those are coming back soon. And your mindset should be confident, open, caring, ready to win. And what's not stated here is don't be attached to the outcome, right? Because if you have a positive mindset, and we do that every morning on our affirmations call at 7, then you know how your day is going to go, and you know you're going to sign that client. If you have an appointment with them, and you know you're going to sign the buyer broker agreement with them and start shopping for houses, but it might not happen that day. Just have an expectation that it will happen, like HM, who said, I'm not going to do this, and then went out there, couldn't find a home, and came back to us, and we've had 4 transactions with her. We have discussed limiting beliefs many times in Ignite. This is not the place for you to have limiting beliefs. Know what you're talking about, be prepared. You are the agent that is going to best serve the client and their needs. And there's no room for negativity or small thinking. I'm knowledgeable and caring, the best agent for these clients, and they appreciate my expertise and preparation and will choose me to represent them as they buy a home. And again, keep in mind, they're moving from somewhere, right? So they may be sellers. A lot of times you're dealing with a renter or a first-time home buyer, but they may be sellers and they may be selling in another city, and you can find a referring agent for that. So ask all those questions about them so that you know what their story is. Get their story. Effective delivery of the buyer presentation begins with welcoming the buyer, setting the expectation for the appointment, turn the conversation into a participant guide. Role play the conversation with the participant by saying, thank you for letting me help you. My goal is to give you a 10+ customer experience. And to do that, I need a clear idea of what you're looking for in your new home. With your permission, we're going to spend 20 or 30 minutes exploring the right home for you, what that would be like. Some of that you've already done before you made the appointment. So I would have my notes ready. Like, you want a home with a view and whatever, you have some idea already, but you want to dig just a little bit deeper to make sure that you have a good vision of what it is that they're looking for and how you can help them. It may seem like a lot, but I'd rather ask you 500 questions now and show you 5 homes than ask 5 questions and show 500 homes. How does conversation help you set buyer expectations? It helps the buyer know why it's important to give you all of that information, and that it's going to add credibility to your being a professional and helping them out. It'll save the buyer time later in the process, and be sure that you are both laser focused on the homes that will make them happy. Okay. Love letters, we don't do those anymore. You guys know about that, right?
Question, Barbara, is there a spot on the listing agreement that you can check if the seller does agree to view the love letters?
There is,
Yeah.
there is.
Because I think we liked it in my transaction that we had. We saw somebody that we ended up going with,
Yeah,
picking them.
yeah, and you know what's happening, what I see happening, and it's happened on the last 2 listings that we sold, the agent, and in both cases, I knew the buyer's agent really well. And the agent called me, one of them wanted to know about the open house, wanted to bring the buyers to the open house. And she said, and already my seller had called me that morning, almost in tears. And she said, this couple came by the house and dropped off this letter about how much they loved the house and really wanted to live in this neighborhood. This couple had not been in the house. This is a piece of shit, and they're hoarders, and it's a long story, but they really wanted the neighborhood. They loved the house. We're sorry to hear about your loss, because her husband passed away during COVID, but passed away of lung cancer. But she's like, how do they know that Mike died? And I said, I don't know. maybe the neighbors told them that they love the neighborhood, maybe, I don't know how they. And there were pictures of them as a family, and then there was another picture of them with their pets as a family, and, you know, it was like, she said, these people are so sweet, and I think that they should buy my house. And I said, Marty, we're gonna wait and see who will give you most money. You need to move to Arizona, you're retiring. Your son is there, you wanna get there, see if they're competitive with their price, right? This is just the sweetest thing, I'm gonna be here for you, see if you can read it, you're open house. I'm like, "Not good." In the meantime, an agent called, wanted to bring her clients by the open house at it. She starts describing them to me, and I said, the family, it's a couple, they've been looking in that neighborhood for a long time. This agent I know really well, like, her mother used to work for me 25 years ago. She worked on our team after she got her real estate license. I was at her wedding, so I know her for a long time. And she came to the open house with the clients, and it's the same ones that dropped off the block. I have a feeling they were coached to do that. Like, she works for a company that refuses to let their agents do that with their buyers, so they refuse. You have to check that box that you're not gonna do blood letters, right? So I don't think they just decided on their own to write the love letter and drop it off to the seller in their mailbox. So I think they were probably coached. And then it happened again with an agent that I don't know very well, another one. So I think agents are getting outside of that because they know it works. Right, and if
But you're technically not supposed to do it anymore. I don't think it's fair housing.
Yeah. But
there is still a space on the contract that says that we can build.
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, and that takes the liability off us as agents and puts the liability, if there is a fair housing suit, on the buyer themselves, the seller themselves for saying that they would take it. I will tell you that I came from the commercial world, mostly working with multifamily housing, and the agents that worked on site, property managers and agents that were leasing apartments, were not allowed to take copies of driver's licenses. And we used to do it to protect our agents, because if you had someone's driver's license in the drawer and you went out to show them an apartment, and in those days in Dallas, agents were getting raped and vacant apartments, so the driver's license is in the drawer, you have ID and stuff. And we had to quit doing that. Once they submitted an application to live there, and the application has been verified, and they're approved to move in, then you can ask for photo IDs, because you need to know who lives in the unit, and if you have to issue keys. That was 35 years ago. We were not allowed to do it at all, because if their photos attached to the application, then they decide they don't want to reach that person based on the photograph. So for the Association of Realtors to catch up with that 35 years after the Apartment Association implemented it, it's about time, because discrimination is just wrong.
Yeah.
But if the love letter, and most people don't think of it as discriminating. They wouldn't ever, most people are not discriminatory, they want to be fair, and they want the right price for their home, and we live in a multicultural society where it's not a big thing. So it's the love letter, who they want to buy the house, the sentimental value of it. You're right. Right. Okay. Sorry, you didn't talk too much. Getting the signed agreement. Okay. We're gonna practice closing before the agreement conversations. We're not gonna do that, because I talk too much. We're supposed to practice not close right now. But you should review and practice handling objections and exclusive conversations before you file a consultation. I think unless you guys just do want to practice a little bit of that, then we can. But I think we kind of covered it all, talking about listening to what their objections are and asking further questions about how can I help with that, Is it cold? Yes. See if that works. The property manager learning how to turn off the fan. Okay, did you guys want to role play that? You do? Okay. I'll let you role play that. So you three figure out who's the agent and who's the buyer, and you're gonna close them to the appointment. So do a needs assessment, figure out, they're a couple, don't discriminate because they're both female. And you're the agent, and then you guys can role play, one of you be the agent and one of you be the buyer. You're just gonna say, okay, assume that you already have a needs assessment, you know what they're looking for. And now you wanna get more information and have them come in for the consultation. So that's what you're trying to do, is close them to the appointment.
Buyer or agent. Okay,
Where do we get the names?
what's your name? Room, Roy.
Well, we have one on the team, but you can probably, the needs assessment, we can find them. And if you guys want them, be sure and email me. I'm sure that they're probably in the hub. Some kind of needs assessment's probably in the hub.
Do you know what session we're on? Because maybe it's in here.
Yeah,
The needs assessment was way back in
Number 14,
Oh, number 14.
yeah.
yeah. The needs assessment is basically it's an interview with them, finding out what their motivation is, when they want to move, why they want to move, what they're looking for, what their dream house looks like. We have kind of our own form that we've created over the years that goes into all of that, but I'm sure there's one somewhere. Hi, you guys, we're just wrapping up, yeah.
Alright, so I guess we're transition from conversation, action. I don't figure out anything that you want to know, let's say. Alright.
You want me to just give you like a scenario or whatever?
Oh yeah, so you told me everything you know, Drew, or everything that you want in a home.
Sure, I'll read.
I'd love to sit down with you and discuss more about what goes on in a real estate transaction. Are you
Determining their
available?
motivation.
A little busy in the next few days, but probably next week I can pick up some time.
Okay, no worries. And if you're open to a Zoom call or another form of communicating so that we can really get down to the basics of the real estate transaction, I'd love to do
Just
that.
put in the
So
follow up
just let me know
review,
your
find out
availability.
how you're doing your planning process so far. I wanted to
Yeah.
touch base with you. Have you started working with anybody yet?
Sounds good, I'll follow up tomorrow. Alright. You wanna go ahead with the agent now?
Yeah, are we just checking?
So I think it's like, we've, at this point, like say we've just had our first call with someone and we've figured out what kind of home you're looking for, you know.
Oh, okay, the lot in Beverly.
Oh, okay, maybe, yeah, you're right, we need to get them in so that we can qualify the treatment, so maybe I did a little bit more basic, we should do something that discusses.
Yeah, so I mean, let's say you're like, you want to go.
I'll be back.
And I'll,
Okay, so you're looking.
let's say I go to,
for 2,115 square feet,
am I calling your?
10,000 square foot.
I'd say we're at the end of
lot,
the
so you
conversation,
have
right?
a full
So now it's like, how do I get this client in so I can get them pre-qualified and
Do you have
continue
your
working?
neighborhood areas that you're going to?
Yeah,
But you wanna
so
search?
thank you so much for, your time discussing your needs with me. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to get you in
I'm
your
just
new
shooting
home.
from the hip.
But before we can move forward, there are a few things
Oh, here,
that I
so
think we need to do immediately to make your
It's only
offer
14.5.
a lot more appealing and stronger than others, so first of all, today I would ask you to.
Hey, I'm good, how are you doing?
How was Texas?
Texas was great, and I was in Nashville.
Oh, you were?
I was in the sports.
Is that how you do it? Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, wait, sorry.
Shop around.
We gotta be wrapping up because.
I thought you were done, I'm so sorry.
Oh, we have till 1, but we're almost done.
Oh,
So come on in, you can hang out.
We-
Sorry about that, Michelle.
That's all right, that's all right. Okay, let's get on so we can get back up.
I can give you a rundown of what we do and my company.
I'm buying
and,
it.
so you open a search.
Decent rate.
So is that okay? Then I can show you a preview of some of the
I would
homes that we already
suggest doing the
discussed.
same for yourself. And the next thing that
I consider it push myself all over the South Bay, any city, I would access to your homes that you wanna see, if something pops up on the
financing,
internet.
and then
Let me
you'll
know
probably
and I can
edit some down.
preview them with you or
Sure.
make sure you get access.
I'm gonna do an FHA loan. so I can
Okay.
get back to you.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's always
in
an
fact,
option.
I lived here for
The
13
lender
years
will
and
guide
I've
you,
been in the state for
that. I do know it's usually for first, it is for first time buyers, so this is your first.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's
All
good,
right,
because I
are you
actually
guys
bought my
good?
first home
Done?
this year, so I
Done?
can walk you through
We're
that.
done, and then I can send you an invitation to.
Okay, so we're wrapping up your buyer consultation. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Okay, so don't forget that in your consultation, or even before then, when you're setting up the appointment for the consultation, to make sure you get your KW app forwarded to them, to their phone. Right, so that they can kind of start the search and look at the neighborhoods, and the great thing about that KW app is it has more than houses in it.
Is that Cal, the Cal app?
Kelly, yeah,
Kelly.
yeah.
Kelly.
You have a KW app on your phone? Okay, talk to Natalie or Holland about how to get that on your phone, because it's branded to you. And you can share it with anybody that you're talking to.
Okay, don't make command or?
No, it is like a multiple listing app. You have yours on your phone now? Your KW? Yeah, so you can share with anybody. And they can start looking at neighborhoods and looking at properties that are available, but it's branded to you. So that they can always call you back with any questions that they have.
No.
Okay, I think that's the wrap, you guys. Anybody have any questions, closing statements, anything you want to know? Are we good for today?
Thank you, it was very informative, thank you. And yeah, it was great.
I talk too much, so you can call Ed and complain.
No, I
Somebody always does.
like when we digress because it gives you real world situations.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, so that.
You can read all this on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
It's examples and help you answers to questions.
Exactly.
But someone always calls Simon and said, she didn't follow the curriculum. And Simon says, yes, she's not much of a follower. Never has been, so you guys know how to reach me if you have any questions. Thanks so much for being here.
By the way, I love that. I tell people when I said, because I did the first couple of modules of Ignite, and I said, you're gonna have some people who follow the book, and you're gonna have some people who don't follow the book. And that's great, because you should be following the book like at home and making sure you're all caught up. Try to read ahead if you can. And sometimes they're gonna follow along, and sometimes they're gonna be off, and that's awesome. But just know there's two sources of information, and sometimes they overlap and sometimes not, but that's great, because you just get like a whole other additional
Yeah,
aspect of it.
there's always two people in the room, and I usually know who they are, and they're not here right now. They're gonna call Simon and to say, she talks too much and she didn't follow the curriculum and I didn't learn anything, and so today is a good day.
I think the examples are always.
That was a really good session.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys, and you know where to find me if you need anything.
Ed, is this on? Yeah.
And I don't know how to.
That is a good question. Let's see.
Have a good one.
Colin grabbed a remote.
Oh, yeah,
I'll be back to see.
Gentlemen, Erica, and
yeah, you're coming out,
Here.
just in a minute.
then I kind of get.
There's a really good class around.
Then now I get back.
What?
I think it's coming in.
To work with Ed, I'm presenting,
Awesome. I know. I know. But I wanted to. There she is. You got like to go somewhere.
And now you're like a whole year.
Now I'm like, I'm getting crazy. I
So Daryl's.
Yeah, what about you? I started with Keller Williams.
No, I was
Darting from tree to tree, covered in. And then I get dark anyway, so I was like happy to point that out.
Were you doing this?
That's hilarious.
So, do you guys want some high chairs?
Sure.
We're gonna cool glasses, so
Yeah, it's upside down.
What can I do to help you?
Nothing really. I'm just gonna set up the Zoom.
You know how I know that Darrow's a town? Boxes of donuts.
Yeah, right. As if I'm not. He's like, we have to leave early. I know, oh, I know.
Yeah. But you mainly sing to your friends like, oh, just join on Excel, you know, and I think.
Yeah.
Try to.
I'll, we've already had Natalie log in and share the link in the chat, or so people can go to yours.
Because like wherever you go upstairs.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I'll take a break from Seriously. Well, you should watch the when you log in the first time. And next time, I'll go over.
Okay.
I have a buyer that you can see, which is really helpful. We'll talk about this. Sure. Thanks, everyone. Good to see you. All right, so let's do that. I'm trying to think how to do this so that.
Spreadsheet, I don't know if you even need to worry about it. Maybe we can put it up there, but
I just want to make sure we have you guys on the camera. Not that camera. That's not gonna help us.
oh, I see.
So I've got a camera here on my laptop that we utilize.